Star Trek merchandise can sometimes be hit or miss. I mean, we've certainly had some interesting designs pop up in stores lately. Anyway, we had the pleasure of chatting to someone who is on a mission to give Trekkies what they want: brand new Star Trek action figures. Today we're talking to Brian Volk-Weiss, CEO of the Nacelle Company. They announced a new line of Star Trek figures, and recently revealed them at New York Comic Con, so we just had to learn more. If you enjoy these interviews, please hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments your thoughts. Let's make it so. Brian, thank you so much for joining us here on Trek Central today. We're of course talking about Nacelle's upcoming line of Star Trek action figures, but first, let's start from the ground. Could you introduce yourself for me, please?
My name is Brian Volk-Weiss. I'm the founder of the Nacelle Company and the current CEO. And it is my honor to be on your show.
Thank you, Brian. That's lovely. Thank you very much for the introduction. Let's waste no time. Now, many Star Trek fans watching this are going to want to know more about the Nacelle Company's line of Star Trek action figures. They may not have seen what came out of New York Comic Con, but let's first start off a project. How did this come about? What made you decide to do a line of figures?
So, I mean, again, I would hope anybody listening to this knows that Nacelle is not invented by Star Trek, but I would say 99% of the world that knows that word learned it from Star Trek. So I love Star Trek. It changed the entire course of my life. And I mean, if anything, that's an understatement. So that's Exhibit A. And Exhibit B, we started making toys about 3 years ago. And, we started buying older brands that were out of manufacturing, and we were bringing them back. And that was going very, very well. We do Biker Mice, Robo Force. So I had a meeting at Alcon to talk about the TV side of the company. We actually make TV shows too. People are always shocked lately, be like, are you the same Brian Volk-Weiss who did Toys That Made Us? I'm like, that's not weird. The fact that we're making Star Trek toys is weird. Anyway, so I had a meeting at Alcon, and they were like, we were talking about working together on some TV shows. And as the meeting was ending, one of the guys in the room was like, you want to hear a cool thing I bet you'll like? I'm like, sure. He goes, this room we're in right now, this conference room, this is where every single episode of The Expanse was written. So I showed him my arm, and it was covered in goosebumps, hairs standing up and everything. And he was like, we don't have a toy license. And I read that you're doing toys now. So we got the Expanse license. We announced it. We showed pictures. We raised money, yada, yada, yada. So cut to about a year later, I had heard that Playmates was winding down their Star Trek toy line, the figures. So I literally was just kind of goofing around with one of my colleagues, the guy who runs our consumer product division, Michael Goodman. And I was just talking to him, and I'm like, do you know anyone at Paramount? And he was like, yeah, of course I do. And I'm like, can you ask? Like, just ask. And he was like, sure. So we got a Zoom, and we made the pitch. And the pitch was literally so because of Toys That Made Us, I'm friends with lots of people that own toy companies or work at toy companies. So I had been pitching them for years. Like, don't just do Kirk and Spock. You got to do Captain Jellicoe. You got to do Captain Garrett. And of course, for good reason, nobody listened to me, as they should not have. And then that's what we pitched Paramount. That was literally, I called our head of development, Savannah. I was like, hey, I'm going to just vomit a pitch to you, and can you turn it into a presentation? She was like, I'm used to that. And that's what we did. So we pitched Paramount. They listened. A bunch of weeks went by. Then we had another meeting with the first guy's boss. All we did was talk about Star Trek and not about toys or anything. Like, he was just, excuse me, I think he was just trying to see, like, if I was passionate. If anything, I'm lucky I didn't scare him off. And then about a month after that meeting, we have an email. I have it framed on the wall, saying, "Congratulations, you've been approved to make Star Trek toys."
Wow, that is a fantastic story.
It was nuts. It was absolutely crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
That is amazing. No, it's fantastic. It's such a great story of starting as well. I'm sure many fans are really going to love hearing that one. New York Comic Con, let's rewind back to that a minute. It seems long ago, but it really wasn't. It's sort of the in-person reveal of some of these figures. Could you tell us about some of those figures and what made Nacelle go for these characters? And you sort of mentioned it there in another answer, but could we expand on that maybe?
So I am very self-aware that I am attracted to and maybe, and I'm not saying this as I know what I'm about to say, and I was worried it could come off as egotistical, but I'm actually saying this not in a good way about the job that I have. This is not a good instinct for someone who does what I do. Luckily, I'm aware of it. But I really like unique. I put a staggering, way more than probably most people do, way more than most people should who have a job like mine, on the unique and the never been done before. So like, if you look at my toy collection, that's over like 4,000 pieces, probably well over by now, for the love of God. I mean, I have a lot of weird stuff. Like, I love the David Lynch's Dune. The movie bombed. The toys never did well, ever, anywhere. So I'm aware of that for myself. So I picked characters, some of which I feel make sense and will do well. Like, I'm not the only one who likes Captain Jellicoe. I'm not the only one who likes Captain Garrett. There might be, there's one character in particular we've been getting a lot of emails about where it's like, why'd you do that one? And the answer is, I don't want to single out which one it is, but the answer is, I think the best toy lines in history, it's a dialogue between the toy company and the consumer. If you go back to Kenner and how they did Star Wars, and you could make a book. You could make a book where each page was just one picture of, like, for lack of a better expression, fan maintenance. I mean, they put letters in every vehicle, anything that wasn't one figure on a card. There were letters, there were fan groups, there were fan magazines, there were all these things that surrounded the toys that people forget about, who were there, and people who were not there, who don't have gray hair in their beard, don't even know about. But as a kid who was born in 76, I really grew up with Star Wars. And I remember getting a letter, and you could see like the Lucasfilm mailing symbol or whatever. And it was like, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it was like Christmas in March kind of stuff from a stupid letter, right? So because I'm a collector, I know if I had read that a toy company had gotten the rights, my first thought would be, oh my God, this is the fourth company in 5 years. They're going to put out 3 figures. It's going to be Kirk, Picard, Spock, or Data. Maybe if we're lucky, Riker. Maybe if we're lucky, a Guinan. And I wanted to say to the community, with actions, not BS, I wanted to say, we're going there. Like, that character that was on screen for 3 minutes and you never even thought about making a toy. Like, I'm not the first guy to think about doing Jellicoe as a toy. All you got to do is go to Etsy and you will see lots of Jellicoes. You will see lots of hand custom made Garretts. You won't see Valkyris from Star Trek 3. Like, that's what I wanted to say to the fans. And I also wanted to say to the fans, and like, I don't know why I said fans. I really want to use the word because it's what it is. It's a community. I wanted to say to the community, we're in it for the long haul. Like, we'll get to Kirk. We'll get to Spock. Believe me, they're going to be in Wave 2 will have at least 2 captains. So we're going to get there, but come with us on this ride. We don't see this as a 1 or 2 year ride. We don't see this as a 1 or 2 wave ride. We see this as, I want to, like, for me, victory is doing at least 100 unique characters. Like that's first base. That's not a home run. That's not a triple. That's getting to first base is when we put out our 100th figure.
You have an idea of who that might be? No spoilers, obviously, but have you got an idea in the back of your head who the 100th might be?
It's funny. I actually do. I'm not going to say it because I've learned the hard way not to back myself into corners. But I do. And by the way, I mean, we already know what we're doing for the 60th. So like we're designing wave 2 right now.
Fantastic.
But like the 60th, which I don't even know if that'll be a full wave. It'll either be 2 or 3 characters, maybe 4. But we're already two years out, at least.
That's fantastic. And you also, Nacelle also took inspiration and sort of like feedback from the community, didn't you? Emails were sent in. Can you talk a little bit about that? What was the community feedback like for this figure line?
So it's so interesting. It's so interesting. So a couple things. Number one, wave 1 was supposed to be 6 figures. At the last minute, I realized it, again, to give the community what they want, which is what I want. Like, I'm not talking about the community like some abstract third-party removed organization. I'm in that organization and have been since I was 5. So what I wanted to just do was make sure the audience understood we were listening, first of all. Second of all, one of the characters in Wave 2 absolutely happened because of the feedback in the comments section we got from the initial press release. So there's no reason for me to hide it. It was Weyoun. We would not have done Weyoun. If we had only done 6 figures, there would have not been a Weyoun. Because we went up to 8 figures and we had so many comments, we took all the comments and put them into a spreadsheet. So, and then numbered who got how many like mentions. And that's really, I mean, Weyoun didn't get the most mentions, of course, but it made sense. It was an alien. We wanted to do another alien. We wanted to do something from Deep Space Nine. And I love the character. I mean, I should probably have started with that. So that was part of it. And then, like I said, we just got Wave 2 approved by Paramount this week on Monday. That list, 40% at least, is based on what we heard from the community.
That's fantastic. I'm sure many are going to be loving that news as well. And also having a Weyoun figure, that's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to that one.
As am I. One of the most unique characters in the history of Star Trek.
And Jeffrey Combs as well. Everybody loves him. So
He's the best. He's the best.
In the original announcement to StarTrek.com, it was revealed that the figure line will cover from the original series to Star Trek Enterprise. Many questioned about the new sort of like films like like Strange New Worlds. Is there a reason why it's not covering that? It's like a licensing thing. Could you maybe elaborate on that if possible?
Yeah, there was another, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, and also hopefully a little funny, another company beat us to it.
Fair enough.
And by the way, I can't say who the company is, but I know who the company is. And, you know, Star Trek fans are very picky. So I'm just giving my own opinion. I love that company. I have conservatively probably 3 dozen figures that company has made. And by the way, and this is a real compliment I can give. I one of the things they make, I'm not even the biggest fan of, but they did such a gorgeous job with the figures. And I don't know how they do their price point. And I mean what I'm about to say is a compliment, because at some point you'll know who's making them. Like, I'm like, is this like a mob front? Like, how are you selling toys this beautiful at this price point? So I'm a big fan.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure many are going to be looking forward to that eventual reveal. So one question we love to ask everybody, and we sort of touched on it at the start there as well, but what is your personal connection to the Star Trek universe? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
I mean, it occupies 100% of my life since I could like go to movies and understand movies. That being said, if I were to take this, 13 movie, probably over 1,000 episodes at this point thing, and zero in to one thing, it's the Genesis cave scene in Wrath of Khan, when Saavik says to Kirk, face death. And Kirk says, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. And that, I talk about this, by the way, more than ever, I'm telling people this. Something I basically wouldn't admitted until probably I got married. And then something I've never said in an interview before. I'm now saying in every interview. But it is in my will that when I am dead, and I hopefully have a tombstone, it will say, quote, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. James T. Kirk is written by Nicholas Myers. So that's it, and it changed my entire life. I always say Star Wars inspired my career choice. Star Trek, I'm not religious. I wasn't in the military. Star Trek gave me a code and it gave me rules to follow. And that scene, that premise, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. That it, like I said, changed the entire course of my life.
That's fantastic. It's such a great story as well. Hopefully many around the world sort of connect with it as well. As we always hear some fantastic Star Trek stories and how people connect with it on a personal and even deeper level as well, which is fantastic. Well, Brian, that brings me to the end of our questions for today. We've learned a lot about the Star Trek figure line. I'm sure many are queuing up right now to get their hands on some of these. I believe next year, isn't it, they're coming out? Or can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the pre-sale is going to be in the middle of Q1, perfect. Late February, early March. For anybody who doesn't know what Q1 was, which blissfully 10 years ago, I didn't know. I missed those days. But that being said, yeah, they'll be on pre-sale early 2025. And I swear, and two things I just want to also mention. One, I swear we will do everything possible to get them into people's hands before 2026, number one. Number two, we are doing every single thing we can, and I believe we will pull this off to keep them under $30. So our North Star is the Black Series or G.I. Joe Classified, and our goal is to keep them under $30. We really want people to buy them all. And I don't say that for money reasons. I say that we really should be selling them for more than $30. I say that because if I'm just being honest, at this point in my life, yes, we must be profitable. We absolutely have to be. We can't keep doing this if we're losing money. But the joy I get, if people, look at your background. Imagine the person who worked on designing the original clone trooper armor that you have behind you. Imagine the joy that person gets if they saw you right now. Then imagine the people at Hasbro or whoever worked on that. I get such joy seeing the pictures people are making. So I really hope people go for all 8. And I know as a part of that exchange, price really, really matters.
I think that's great to hear, particularly at the minute of cost of living becoming so high around the world. Having something affordably priced is fantastic for many, and I'm sure many fans will love that as well. So
cool.
Perfect. Well, Brian, thank you very much for joining us here on Trek Central. I'm sure we'll catch up next year for another interview once the collection's out and hopefully learn more about the future of it as well.
I would love that. This has really been fun.